So as promised, I will talk about all 12 tenses in the English language today. To talk about the 12 tenses, we have to talk about verbs. So believe it or not, these are all the verbs in English, or at least representatives of all the verbs in English. In English, we have thousands of verbs, right? Those thousands of verbs are represented by a few verbs only that you can learn, and they will help you understand all the other verbs in the English language. Today is an introduction, and then introduction to the 12 tenses in English. And then later, I will take the tenses one by one and explain it. Not to lose track of where I am, I'm not explaining the verbs in a vacuum, in isolation. I'm trying to teach you the simple sentence structure. So we talked before about the subject, and then what comes after the subject is the verb, right? So we'll go to the posts before today so that you learn more about the subject and what I said about the subject and the verb and all. Anyway, so let's go to this. So these are representatives of all the verbs in English, and verbs are like people. So they're like us. They have different classes, and they have kings, and they have ministers, they have wasta, and they have the majority, minority, and they have some crazy verbs. Let's take them one by one, let me explain. The king of the verbs is called verb to be. Verb to be, because it is the king, can do whatever it wishes. So it can have more than one sons here, more than one verb in the first form. I'm not sure if this is clear enough. It's is, are. Maybe I need to invest in more markers. So it has three first form verbs. Is, are, three sons. It's the king, so it can have as many sons at once. And then the second verb, the second form, we have was and were. So verb to be is the infinitive, the origin of the verb, and it has three sons in the first form, two sons in the second form, was and were. In the third form, it has only one son, which is being. And then in the fourth form, it has being. Now, the fourth form is always an ing word, and it's formed from the infinitive without the word to. So here we see to be becomes being, right? Let's move on and talk about the minister, the assistant to the king. So here we have verb to be, verb to have. Verb to have is the assistant, and because it's the assistant to the king, so it can have more than one son. So here it has and have, so it has two sons, or two verbs in the first form, has and have. Now, in the second form, it has had, third form, had, and fourth form, having, have, plus ing. So, we have the king, we have the minister, and then we have this. It's a Jenny. It's a wasta. Wasta, as you know, it's in Arabic, is a person who has connections. So it can do things that the majority of us, the majority of verbs can't do. And that will become clear when we start talking about the tenses and explaining them. I'm sure many of you will go back to this video to remember these. So I'll say that again. Verb to do is the wasta. It's the person, the verb that has connection. So it can do things that the majority of verbs cannot do. Okay, so just remember that for now. So to do, the wasta, has one verb in the first form, which is do, and then it has one verb in the second form, which is did, and then one son, one verb in the third form, do, done, and then one in the fourth form, which is doing. Okay. Now, these are specific verbs in English, and when I talk about them, I'm referring to them only. So when I'm talking about to be, I'm talking about to be only. When I'm talking about to have, I'm talking about to have only. When I'm talking about to do, I'm talking about to do only. Now, these two verbs here actually represent all the other verbs in English. All the other verbs in English. So let me explain. To play represents the millions and millions and millions of verbs that you have in the English language. All of the verbs in the English language, almost all of them, 99.99% of the verbs in English, take ed in the past or in the second form, ed in the third form, right? That's the vast majority of the verbs. So to play, as you see here, that's too many people. So to play represents almost all the verbs in English, apart from these 3 verbs and this one verb here, kind of. So to play, play, played, play, playing, clear. I don't need to explain it. Now, why is to go the minority? So the majority is represented by verb to play, which takes AD here. So now you guessed it. Why is to go the minority? Only, if I'm not mistaken, 400 verbs in English go in this category, go here in this class. Why? Because they don't take ed in the third form, in the second form and third form, right? So here, to go, and then a wholly different word, went, and then gone, and then going. Okay, so you understand now. These are all the verbs in English, right? These are almost all the verbs in English, and to go represents about 400 verbs only in English. 400, huh? Yeah, it's not too many in English. Think about millions of verbs that you have in English, so they're not really too many. Now we come to the last category of the verbs, or the last class of verbs, which are the crazy verbs. So what are the crazy verbs? Crazy verbs are verbs that don't have an infinitive like all the other verbs in English, and they don't have a third form or a fourth form, as you can see. They are represented by will. There are only 4 verbs: can, and will, and should, and must. Okay? So these verbs don't have infinitive, don't have a third form, don't have a fourth form, and must doesn't even have a second form. So will is the first form, and kind of the past is would. All right? So let me wrap up real quick. These are all the verbs in English, or representatives of all the verbs in English, and they are like people. So they have a king, they have a minister, they have wasta, and then they have the majority of us. The majority, this is us here, right? I'm here. And so that's the majority of us. And then we have the crazy, some people are crazy, right? So some verbs are crazy, only 7 verbs or so. Okay. Now, how about tenses? I promised to talk about tenses, and this took me about 5 minutes now to explain this. Right, so let me start talking about tenses now. When we talk about tenses, we talk about simple, and we talk about continuous, and we talk about perfect. Okay, so 3 things you need to remember. Now, when we say simple, we mean one word. The verb is one word, okay? And when we say continuous, there is a fourth form in the story. There is some ing word that's continuous. And when we talk about perfect, we have verb to have. It can be any of these, okay? Just remember that. So let me say again. When we say simple, that means one word. And when we say continuous, that means ing. And when we say perfect, the word perfect, that means verb to have in any of its conjugations or any of its forms. Okay? It can be infinitive, first form, second form, third form, fourth form. Okay? Not really fourth form, but anyway, because it's ing, so it goes on the continuous. So now, when we say present, well, let me tell you about all the verbs in English first. So we have in simple, we have present simple, we have past simple, and then we have future simple. And when we talk about continuous, we have present continuous, past continuous, and then we have future continuous. And then when we talk about perfect, we have present perfect, we have past perfect, and then we have future perfect. And the last 3 tenses are a mix of continuous and perfect. So we have present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous. That's too much. I'll tell you one thing, guys. Contrary to what most of you think, the simple verbs, present simple and past simple, are not simple at all. They are the most difficult verbs to study in English, and that's what they start teaching you the first thing when you go to school. On the contrary, present continuous is a little bit easier, but it's still difficult.
Present perfect is really easy. Present perfect continuous is really, really, really easy. So I would love it if books start teaching present perfect continuous before they start teaching the present simple, because the present simple is really, really difficult. I mean, hopefully it's not difficult, but I mean, it's more difficult than the other tenses. So let me say all the verbs again. So we have present simple. So what is the present simple? Present simple is simply the first form. So any of these here is a present simple, not the crazy verbs, of course, right? So if you find a subject, go back to the videos before that to watch what the subject is. If you find a subject and then you find a verb, and that verb is only one word, and it comes from a first form, you know that this sentence is in the present simple. So I am a teacher. He has a car. We do our homework. We play. All of these are present simple, present simple, present simple, present simple. Right. So what is the past simple? Past simple is the second form. Exact same thing, with the exception of the crazy verbs, right? So any of these, right? And what they represent as well. So played represents studied and jumped and slept and all of that. And went, go and went to, these represent the irregular verbs that don't take ed. So these verbs here are in the second form, so it's the past. Okay. Now, what is the future simple? Because we talked about the present simple, we talked about the past simple. Let's talk about the future simple. What's the future simple? Future simple is the word will. And this is another rule of thumb that you need to learn. When you see the word future, then there is a word will. Okay. So will is very simple. Future simple is the word will plus, and watch carefully, the infinitive without to. It's not, as many teachers say, it's will plus the first form. No, it's will plus the infinitive without to. Because you cannot say will has or will is, but you have to say will be and will have. So again, future simple is will plus infinitive without to. So will be, will have, will do, will play, will go, like that. Okay. Now we finished all the simple tenses. That's 3 of them: present simple, past simple, and future simple. Now let's talk about the continuous. Now remember what I said about continuous. I said if you find the word continuous, then there is an ing in the story. Another thing that you know exists in the sentence when you see the word continuous is verb to be. Okay, let me say that again. When you see continuous, the word continuous, and any tense, you know that there are two things. There's an ing word and there's a verb to be. Now, if you say present continuous, then that verb to be is in the present or the first form. Okay, let me write present here for you so that we start using it. So first form is present, and here past. Okay, that's important. Now, again, present continuous. Present continuous is verb to be in the present, because we said present continuous. So verb to be in the present, and any word from here. So we can say am being, am having, am doing, am playing. Example, I am playing football. I am doing my homework. He is having his breakfast, and so on. So that's called present continuous, right? Let's focus on the verb here. Let's not talk about the subject. Forget about I and he and all of that. Right. Let's move on to the past continuous now. So when we say past continuous, what comes to mind? Yeah, good. ing word and verb to be. We said verb to be in the what? In the past. So verb to be in the past is was and where plus any ing word in the English language. So if you want to make a sentence in the past continuous, you will use was and where. You must use one of them. Was and where, and then any of these. So I was playing, they were having, and so on. How about the future? Now remember what we said about the future. We said when you say the word future, I mean future continuous, right? When you say the word future, then there is a will here. And when we say continuous, then what do we have? Yeah, right. We have verb to be, and then we have an ing word. Right, so we have will and verb to be, and then ing word. So the verb here is how many words? 3. In English, the verb can be 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, 4 words, right? So don't get confused. The verb can be more than 1 word. So I said after will, what do we take? Verb to be, right? Verb to be here or here? No. It has to be what? Infinitive without to. So now here is the future continuous. Will be, and then any ing word. Really, it's that simple. Yeah, it is. Will be doing. I don't want to really use it in a sentence, just to make things clear and make your life easy. I use it in a sentence. I speak to my friend John, for example, and I say, John, can I call you tomorrow? And can I call you tomorrow at 9? And he says, 9? No, sorry. I will be doing my homework, so I don't have time to chat. Will be doing. Right, so the verb here is how many words? 3 words, future continuous. Now, let's move on quickly to the perfect. What's a perfect? Let's start with the present perfect. Present perfect is, remember, perfect means verb to have. But when we say perfect, not only verb to have that comes in mind, but also the third form. So any of these words come in the perfect. So like when we talked about the continuous, and we said when we say the word continuous, it's verb to be plus the fourth form. The perfect is verb to have plus the third form. Hopefully it's not confusing. I'll say it a bit more slowly. When we talk about the continuous, we talk about verb to be, right? And then the fourth form, ing. When we talk about perfect, however, we talk about verb to have, and then any verb in the third form. Example, let's take the first one. Start with the present perfect. So present perfect, what do we have? We have verb to have, and then we have 1 word in the third form. Verb to have, but which verb to have do we need? Oh, it's called present perfect. So we need verb to have in the, yes, present. So it's this, has or have. So it's has or have plus any of these words. So has done, have played, has gone, have been, and so on. All of these are called what? Present perfect. I know you need an example. I'll give you an example. I have played football. I have played football. He has been busy. So on. How about past? Now it's easier since we talked about the present perfect. Past perfect is, again, verb to have plus the third form, but verb to have will be in the past because we said past perfect, right? So what is it? It's had. And then any word in the third form, including had itself. So you can say had, and that's a past perfect. Okay, I don't want to confuse you. So let's choose another one. Let's say for example, had gone. Where's your dad? He had gone to work before you called. Had gone. That's a past perfect. Past perfect. How about future perfect? Do you think it's going to be difficult? Not really. Remember, when we talk about future, we talk about the word will. And when we talk about perfect, we talk about verb to have, and then we talk about the third form. So, which verb to have, which one of these forms are we going to use after will? Exactly. It's always, after will, it's always the infinitive. So we will use will plus the infinitive without to. Will have this. Any of them? Will have gone. I'm coming to your home tomorrow. At what time are you coming? We're coming at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, but by 9 tomorrow, we will have gone to the supermarket. Will have gone. I want to talk about the usage now, right? So I will just talk about the form. Let me have a sip of water. Now the last one, the most difficult one. So they say, the present perfect continuous, step by step. Now we have the present. Forget about the present now. Perfect. So we have verb to have, continuous. Oh, sorry, we have verb to have, and then we have the third form. The two things, as I said, come in mind when we say the word perfect. It's verb to have, and then the third form. And two things that come in mind as well when we say continuous, because it's called present perfect continuous, right? Which is what? Which is verb to be, and then the fourth form. Oh God, how are we gonna make that? It's super easy. Think about it. I, and then it's called perfect, right? So let's take the verb to have in the present, because I said present perfect continuous. So let's take one of them. I have, right? Now we need verb to be, right? Because there is continuous. So we will take verb to be, but we'll take it in the which form? Third form, right? So we hit two birds with one stone. Which verb to be, but it's not in any of these, it's in the third form, because after have, we take the third form because it's perfect. So have, been, and then an ing word. Super easy, hopefully. So let me put it in a sentence and I'll explain it again because you might think it's difficult. The sentence is, I have been playing football for 6 years, for example. So what do we have in this sentence? I have been playing. Have been playing. Have. And then the third form, we hit two birds with one stone. We will have a third form and it's going to be verb to be, right? So here we have verb to have on a third form and we have verb to be and then ing. So it's perfect continuous. Easy? Hopefully. Let me know if it's difficult, then I'll make a video for that only. But we will come to it anyway later on. Now let's move on from present perfect continuous to the past perfect continuous. What is it? You guessed it, that's right. It's verb to have, but it's in the past. Okay, so what is it? Instead of saying I had been playing football, you say I had been playing. So past perfect continuous is second form from verb to have, had, and then verb to be in the third form, and then any ing word in the English language now the most difficult. I wouldn't call it the most difficult, but it has the most words in the English language. It is the verb that has the most words in the English language, which is future perfect continuous. So future, what do we have in future? We have will. And then what do we have in perfect? Verb to be and a verb in the third form, which is being, you know, the secret now. And then continuous, what do we have? We have verb to be and then any ing word. So I will, yes, go ahead, have, because after will we must use an infinitive without to. I said that before. So I will have been playing football, like that. I know it sounds crazy. We don't use it that often in the English language, so don't worry if you don't know it. Now let me wrap up real quick. If you want to learn about all the tenses in the English language, that's the form only, as I said in a previous post. The usage, we will talk about it later, okay? So it's the form. So if you want to know all the verbs in the English language, look at this very, very well. And then remember these rules of thumb. Number one, when we say future, there is always a will plus infinitive without to. When we say simple, one word. When we say continuous, we have verb to be plus the fourth form. And then when we say perfect, and then we have verb to have plus a third form. I bet the video is 20 minutes now. More than enough, really. Hopefully you're patient enough to watch till the end of it. Thank you very much for watching, and after tomorrow I'll start talking about one of the tenses, right? Thank you for watching.